All right, so welcome back to the Crucial Convo podcast. This evening, this is an interesting time. I have my wife next to me,
Hey,
the
everybody.
amazing Mrs. Faith
I
Afriye.
got a lot to say today.
So, I want to talk about what went wrong with Kamala Harris's campaign and the Democratic Party as a whole.
Hmm.
We've talked about this many times. What this campaign is and what it became is a lot of different things because of the media, social media, and the narrative is a lot of things mixed in the pot. So I know what I think about what happened, and I kind of want to go back as to how all this started.
Yeah.
So you have some thoughts you want to get off before I
Oh, the
get in
thoughts that I wanted to get off was regarding
her concession.
her concession,
Okay,
but we can start wherever.
let me go back for a minute, right?
Okay.
So I think to me, where all this started, there's a lot of things that happened that culminated up to 2024 that I think most people didn't actually see. They didn't take it in. So this started long before 2024 as far as Democrats, right? So let's go back to 2016, right? So we'll go back to 2008 for a minute.
Okay.
Barack Obama won.
Okay.
He ran the country from '08 through 2016. Hillary Clinton comes behind Barack Obama, and Hillary Clinton is supposed to be the obvious choice. She didn't really see Donald Trump coming. No one did. Donald Trump came in. We all know. I'm not going to retell all the history, but he came in as a new type of a candidate, beat Hillary Clinton. That's where the clock starts. So Trump
2016. Okay.
wins. He runs the country as president from 2016 to 2020.
Hmm.
Now, when 2020 came, Joe Biden ran. Now, keep in mind, people need to remember Joe Biden barely won.
Hmm.
He barely won by 10,000, 20,000 votes, whatever. So what does that say? The reason why Joe Biden won is because he was connected to Barack Obama. People don't remember that. That's why he was an attractive figure. No one wanted Joe Biden. Joe Biden wanted to run in 2016. The Democrats were like, "Nah, you're not going to win." They wanted him to sit it out. Hillary ran, she lost. He came back in 2020 and won by just a little bit. Now, the reason why I'm bringing all that up is the Democrats were not prepared for this election. So Joe Biden got in, he barely won, ran the country, right?
Hmm.
From 2020 up until now. So that brings us up to present. So that sets the stage, right? So when Joe Biden got in, he was already become, first of all, he's too old. We obviously had to
I
see
think everybody knew that. Yeah.
the train
With
wreck
him going
happening.
in. Yeah.
And then in addition to that, he was not a popular president in that sense when you put it in the context of the history I laid out. So now when you come into the last couple of years and what has gone wrong with the country, they didn't want to take accountability. In comes um the first debate, and now it's seen that he's too old. He steps down. That's what brings us to where we are now when it started. That clock. So the first problem is we talk about this all the time. What did the Democrats not do? They didn't have a what?
They didn't have an open. Yeah,
Primary.
an open primary. Yes, I was about to say open election. That's not it. An
Yeah.
open primary. They did not have an open primary. The people did not choose
Yes.
this person. So
So they decided.
mistake number one.
Mistake number one.
You
So
got to let the people choose.
it was a better idea to let the people choose in a primary. That way they would have a better candidate. So they bring forth.
Well, not only would they have the better candidate, but they would have the support from the people.
So in comes Kamala Harris. They bring Kamala Harris to the forefront, right? To say she's going to be the nominee, right? Now, they didn't choose her, right? She just was put there. So in the beginning of that whole process, there is an immediate problem. The same problem that she had day one is the same problem that she had at the end of 2 days ago,
Mhm.
right? It's the same problem. So coming into this game, what problem did she have? Well, she's not a new candidate. First of all, people didn't really know a lot about Kamala Harris, quite
Mhm.
honestly. They didn't really know a lot about her on that level of her trying to run for president. They just knew she was vice president. She was in the background. No one knew a lot about her. Yes, some people did know, but in the grand scale, the average person knew nothing about Kamala Harris.
Well, apparently they did because whenever she was on that stage on the presidential the debate stage for the Democratic Party, yeah, I think some people, the public in particular, had a little glimpse as to who Kamala was. Who Kamala was. That's why she got 0% support from the
Listen,
public
that could be
at
totally
that
right.
time. That's why she dropped out.
That could be totally right. Maybe they
No,
knew
no
something about
support.
her and didn't like her. I don't think most people. I don't think she was really on the radar. I just don't think she had the popularity. I
Yeah.
think Joe Biden was connected to Barack Obama, so I think he automatically outshined her, regardless, in my opinion. But I could be wrong. But the issue she had was that she was essentially a new candidate, but she's obviously tied to the administration that's in now.
Right.
Right. So what is her problem? Her problem is that she's a new candidate, but she can't be like all the things that are going on in the country. I ain't got nothing to do with it. I'm a new person, right? She couldn't play that route. So the issue is, in my opinion, I'm gonna let you talk. My issue was, or I think her issue was, is that she had to deal with the idea that, okay, the things that are going wrong, number one, immigration, number one, the economy. I have to deal with these things because I'm part of the current administration. At the same time, not dissing Joe Biden, right? So I say all that to say is I think the first thing she should have done was talk to her strategist and say, you know what, I'm gonna have to admit what's going wrong and just some way say, you know what, we made some mistakes, but this is what I want to do going forward. That would have been the very first thing to do, right? But instead of doing that, they decided they were going to hide from the press, not answer questions, sidestep questions she didn't want to answer, and just let's see if we can throw enough chaos in there and talk about how much people don't like Donald Trump, and I can get to the White House that way. And I didn't think that was going to work. I've been saying it the whole time. I'm like, it's not going to work. You know what I'm saying? And that was the strategy. Just don't talk about it. Just dodge.
Not a good decision at all, because us people, we want to know who you are. We want to know who you are, what you stand for. Now you're in this new role, and you're part of the current presidency, Joe Biden's presidency. So you're currently in it.
Yep.
You in it. And you know that, well, you should know that some of the issues that we have going on in our country, you should be up to that because you're sitting in the White House. You should know what's going on in the country, and what the people are complaining about. But it was almost as if it wasn't happening to her. She never talked about it. And then when asked about it, she reverts back to this bill that they did not pass in Congress
in relation to immigration.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Yep. Because that was the hottest thing going on, besides all the wars in the other countries. But what's happening in our country is just we have an influx of illegal immigration happening, and she didn't address it. It was almost as if it wasn't an issue, and even the liberal media wasn't even saying too much about it either. And I'm just like, I know this has got to be affecting people somewhere. I mean, we may not necessarily feel the effects, but we do live close to
New York, so we were
exactly. So we're aware of what's going on in that city, and then you start hearing other cities, Chicago, of what's going on in their cities, and she's still not addressing it. Right. For me, I don't know if that was strike number one. I think, yeah, I would probably say that's pretty high up there. It could have been strike number one, the fact that she's not even addressing the current issues, like the hottest topic of what's going on in our country. She ain't saying nothing about it. I'm like, okay.
Like you said, she was just blaming Donald Trump, and
and that bill that didn't pass in Congress, which that's a whole nother situation. I don't don't go. You don't want to go back. You're not going back. Well, let's not go back to that bill anymore. I mean, you ain't gonna do it now, but I'm just saying, like, why go back to that bill and what coulda, woulda, shoulda, whatever done when you are currently in a position where you can actively do something right now. Not wait until 20 million people come in and then shut down.
I try to tell
the
people
border
quadrupled by 4. They say the illegal immigration quadrupled by 4.
Mm.
And that's over, over the last 3 years, and that's just a real thing. And just to your point, pretending it's not a real thing is not going to solve the problem.
Yeah.
And also to your point, the bill, we heard about the bill, and I told people before, people would talk about this bill, and I'm like, people who were, voting for her, I said, well, that's fine, the bill happened, but what do you do going? Because look, even the 60-minute interview, he asked her about, beyond the bill. He said, "Do you think it was a mistake to just let all these people in?"
Yeah.
And she got really flustered at that point because, again, that goes back to my point of just saying, "Hey, you know what? We made some mistakes." Quite honestly, when she came in, I think she had a reasonable chance of winning.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump did beat her handily, but it wasn't a blowout.
Mm-hmm.
She could have potentially won stepping in on day one for Joe Biden. However, they're not the Democratic Party, and that's why I want to expand this conversation out to the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
They are not understanding what America that they are trying to govern anymore. And that's the problem, is that when she came in, the immigration piece, just saying that we made some mistakes. I don't know why they're so scared of that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Am I off?
Yeah. No, you're not off at all. Just admitting, like, okay, yeah, this current administration, we've made some mistakes, but here's what we're gonna do to try and fix that.
It wouldn't have bothered me at all. That's something, it wouldn't have made me say I'm not gonna vote for
And
someone
you
who they
ain't
said they make mistakes.
and you don't have to have all the answers right now. Just own up to it
Yeah.
instead of acting like it's not happening.
Yeah.
Or trying to gaslight the people as if, no, this ain't really happening. Let's focus on joy
And vibes.
and vibes, and let's I forgot what her slogan was.
It was, not going back, and vibes, and all that stuff.
Yeah, it was purely emotion. We're not going back, and oh, I forgot the name. I forgot the name of her whole fight and her whole campaign, but
There's tons of mistakes.
I don't know. It was just it was just awkward from my point of view. It was weird. It was just like, am I going crazy? Like that's what I mean by gaslighting.
Right.
Because the person who should be seeing it the most, because you up there, and you know what's going on all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And for someone who, I'm just somebody from the block, living my life, everyday person, but I see it in the news that it's happening all over the country, and murders, children are getting killed.
Yeah, I mean,
there's been a lot of rapes, a lot of murders, a lot of crime happening because of the illegal immigration, robberies. I mean, so much is happening in the country at that time. And for her to just sit on it as if like nothing is happening, smile, grin, and bearing, and still talking about joy.
Yeah.
It was a mind fuck for me. Sorry, excuse my language, but I was just like, I know this ain't real. I know this ain't real. That was just like strike number one. I was so turned off by that. Right. I was so turned off by that, and I'm just like, yeah, I ain't feeling her at all. But that just on that one thing alone, I'm not feeling her at all. But that one thing is it says a lot.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. I mean, that is exactly what I felt too, because it made me feel like, okay, I'm not necessarily gonna vote for you. I hadn't decided right away, but I was like, let me see what she's about, because I didn't know a lot about her. But I said, I'm not gonna vote for her because I said, well, she is not really acknowledging what's going on. And I see it. You know what I'm saying? It's not like I can pretend it's not there. Immigration is a big issue.
Yeah.
And then when you start to get into how much money was being spent on illegal migrants as far as the stipends, they tried to turn it into some type of, you hate elite, you hate brown people. They try to turn it into a more of a racial thing, or you hate immigrants.
They turned it into so many different things.
My parents were immigrants. My parents came into the country. I'm first generation here. So this isn't about immigrants. They try to turn it into something like that. And I'm like, the problem is that Americans see and they understand. And the world we're living in now is that the information is there. So it's not like Americans, you can't really fool Americans from a perspective of information, because Americans have information.
Yeah.
They can decide whether they want to take it in or not.
Yeah.
But you ain't going to be able to act like the information ain't there.
Yeah.
It's clearly there. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So that was, to me, one issue. Now, in the very beginning, so I want to go through this a little bit. I want to comb through this election. So they had the debate. So what happened in the debate? What I saw in the debate, and I'll tell you, you can let me know what you think. What I saw in the debate, that first debate they did, the first and only really debate that they did.
Yeah.
Now, that was an opportunity for her to deal with issues. And again, the modus operandi in this campaign was sidestep, dodge, deflect, right? Okay, maybe you do that for one instance or one interview or one moment. That was like the whole campaign. I cannot understand for the life of me how you could expect to win a presidency doing that's your plan.
That's the MO.
You
Yeah.
plan to get in the White House doing that. No. So the first debate, obviously,
and filibuster. Just talk.
Well, we all saw the first debate. They said she won the debate. I said, cool. Strategically, she won. However, from a logical point of view, she lost, because the whole thing was that we want to hammer home, again, like we just talked about, policies and things we want to do. What does she do? She spent all her time trying to throw Donald Trump off his game. She did it.
Absolutely.
She did it. She baited him, got him to go this way, got him to go that way, made him look like he wasn't on point.
Yeah.
But again, America said, okay, cool. That was a nice little exercise. But did it did it deal with the issues?
Did it showcase her? No, it didn't showcase her. It honestly put more attention on Donald Trump, because he was kind of getting flustered with everything that was being said to him. And then you had the moderators fact checking him, and they ain't fact checking her. So it was like 3 against 1. Honestly, I would have been like, man, forget this. Peace out. Y'all have at it. Are we going to debate? Right. Moderators, are we in a debate right now? Because let me tell you something, but it was just a show.
People saw it.
The people saw it.
People actually saw it.
People can pick up on those things. Like, it's very clear and it's very obvious. It's like thrown right in, giving her alley-oop. I know, setting up the question for the answer. Now all you have to do is deliver the answer, right. Even though we already said it. Yeah, not in such a direct way, but we said it indirectly. Just say it in a direct way.
Exactly.
And she still missed it. She still missed it.
So that is
this is all the alley-oops.
That was exactly the whole issue, because when you start to do that, people see that, and what is it? To me, it signals, okay, this candidate isn't strong. She needs alley-oop. She needs help. So that was the first thing, right? So that was an obvious thing. And then really up to that point, and really after that, she dodged the media. That was another huge red flag. Dodging the media, not talking to people. Now, on Trump's side, like him or not like his coalition, Vivek was all over the place talking. J.D. Vance was all over the place talking. Donald Trump went damn near everywhere. Yeah. He went into op territory, talked to the black national journalists. He talked any and everywhere. He wasn't scared. Yep. Kamala ducked and dodged. She looked scared.
Walking off the plane, she ain't even gonna address the media over there.
Nope.
She'll just wave and do whatever setup scene that she has over here.
Yep.
Make it look like it's from the public, and make it look like it's from the media. And when it's already scripted questions that she can answer, something easy, and it might even just be 1 or 2 questions.
But 2 simple questions. And when she started doing interviews, when she started doing them, she started doing them.
I'm just what is she so scared of? That was my question. I'm just like, why ain't she saying nothing? Like, what is she afraid of?
Well, that's pretty simple.
What's the wrong thing that can be said? Just answer the question honestly.
Well, again, it comes back to how this campaign started. It came back to, look, I know they were in a room somewhere. You can't tell me nothing else. They were in a room somewhere and they said, here are certain things you just ain't going to answer. Immigration, And the economy, she dealt with the economy, tried to a little bit later on in the campaign.
Yeah.
Immigration was one of the biggest issues because they knew it was a big issue that Trump is running on. So they said, you know what? You're not going to answer that really directly. All the time, just go back to the bill that he blocked, and then that's how you're going to answer it, and then you'll do it from that. That was it. Now, that's what she was scared of. So what she was really scared of, honestly, was two things: admitting some type of mistake and not aligning with not shitting on Joe Biden in a way. But
I mean, you can do that with finesse. You can
can't do it unless you admit. You can't do it. It's impossible for her to do any of that separating from Joe Biden gracefully without just admitting something. And that's what they were scared of, in my opinion. And I don't know why they were scared of that, because that would have been honest.
That would have been honest.
You know, so the interviews, when she started to do them, you know, a lot of them, they were like, it's my phone. When she started to do them, so she started to do them obviously in friendly territory. People who were, you know, obviously very liberal, very democratic, you know. So she started to go on those places, and they were giving her obviously the softball questions. Steve Harvey, Charlemagne the God, the All the Smoke podcast with the two basketball players. I forgot their names. Steven Jackson and another guy. Where else should she go? She went to The View. You know, all these places. Softball, 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 and
I think she also did. She go on MSNBC. She did an interview with.
She did an interview on.
Or was it CBS or?
Yeah, I may have been. I can't remember which legacy.
That was another softball. That was another softball.
Super softball.
Another softball. Setting up alley oops.
Alley oops, but the thing is that.
But she always misses.
Or she didn't take the shot. She's just like, okay, all right, we're just gonna dribble.
Thank you. Yeah.
I just dribble right out. Thanks for passing me. I'm just gonna dribble. She'd dribble and start talking to you, hoping that you forget she didn't take the shot.
Then the journalist will always, come back around and ask again a second time. Do you think you could have done anything differently? Or maybe this. Maybe you at the time you thought it was a great decision, and after you've had some time to reflect and think about it, now you realize maybe this isn't the right way to go, right?
That might have been the guy in Pennsylvania. That was the first. I forgot that news station that interviewed her in Pennsylvania. He had asked her some questions like that, and he wasn't aggressive.
Yeah,
but he kind of circled back, and she just was like, I'm not answering you. I'm just gonna keep on filibustering. It wasn't until she met I forgot the 60 Minutes gentleman.
Oh yeah.
60 Minutes was her first real interview. Her first real interviewer who held her, and that's why that was the first time she got a little flustered, because he's like, Madam Vice President, but still, I'm still asking, he was not letting her sidestep, and she was getting irritated. But that was well into the campaign. So, that was, again, I mean, people saw it. It wasn't like people didn't see that she was scared of the press. Everybody who was supporting and wanted to vote for her, regardless of what they saw, just said, I hate Trump. I don't like Trump. And, look, I'll say this right now. I've been going up and down Facebook. I see plenty of people who are like, well, people who are, mad and like, well, I'm unfriending anybody who's supporting Donald Trump or whatever, and blah blah blah. And here's the thing. This is what I'll say. People can do what they want, but I urge people, don't unfriend people because they don't agree with you, or because they voted for a candidate you don't like. To me, you don't want to live in an echo chamber. Mm-hmm. What I did throughout this campaign, I tried to talk to people who wanted to vote for Kamala, and I don't care about party. I tell people all the time, I wanted to understand, what are you seeing? Because what I'm seeing doesn't make me want to vote for her.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not about, I love Trump and I'm MAGA, and it's not about that.
No.
I have two candidates who are front runners.
And we're not politicians. I mean, we're not political people at all. Like, we're just regular everyday people. And I didn't understand the I can see it from one point of view, a few point of views, like because she's a woman, because she's black, and That's pretty much that's the only way. That's the only way for me. Is if that is the reason why you're voting for her is because she's a woman and she is the first, I would say, person of color, then that's the only way that I can understand the reason why and where they were coming from. Because honestly, she also, I mean, or their hatred for Trump. It was like yeah, yeah. It was either it could have been an or their hatred for Trump. It was either one or
the other.
No,
excuse me. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you didn't cut.
It was both.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I guess it would have to be both.
Yeah.
Because it surely wasn't on. It just couldn't have been on anything.
No, it wasn't
real.
If you asked anybody,
or anything that would make a difference in this country, you know what I mean? It wasn't of any kind of substance.
Well,
so
you're right. If you asked anybody why, and you wanted to understand why, they wouldn't give you any why.
Yeah,
it's just because of the fact that I'm not voting for him. I talked to many people who said I ain't voting for him.
Yeah,
I'm not voting for him because of abortion and the fact of things he's done in his past, all that. And so that brings me along to even more, right? So one of the things they did, another mistake in my personal opinion, they kept dwelling on Jan 6. I think dwelling on Jan 6 was, again, another mistake. Why do I say that? January 6th happened, but the problem is that January 6th is over and Donald Trump lost. Whether he thinks he lost or doesn't think he lost doesn't actually matter.
Yeah, they tried that.
What matters is that Joe Biden took a hold of the White House, and he is right now still the leader in chief till January. It doesn't matter. Talking about January 6th, to me, it didn't dissuade. It's not going to make someone say I'm not voting for him.
Yeah,
it just doesn't do it, man. When you really look at it, this was an election about issues. This was a very, again, this is what I'll say. The perfect way to sum this up, this was a logical election. This was not an emotional election. Now, again, I told people, I say, you know what? People think it's an emotional election. They think that's what it is. But I said, wait until November 5th. I went to bed. I didn't watch anything. I knew Donald Trump was going to win. I just knew it because it was just, I saw the whole campaign with the sidestepping and the pretending and all that. The American people care about two things right now. They care about the economy and they care about illegal immigration.
Yeah.
You can pretend, people can pretend those aren't the two top issues, but I don't know what the Democrats don't understand about that.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
They were trying to play every play in the playbook, and it was just it's not the play anymore. No. So you can throw that playbook, throw it away, burn it.
What are the plays? Tell me some of the plays. I want to.
Some of the plays is okay. I mean, well, some of the plays is that she's black, right?
That's one.
So let's play on that. She's black. Let's put that out there. She's black. Obviously, she is a woman, first woman. Let's see some of the other plays. Well, all these celebrity endorsements, all of the her going on to podcasts that ain't got ish to do with, like, the name of it, just the name of it. They call me daddy or something. Zaddy.
Oh, that one they call me. Yeah.
I'm like, does she even know what this podcast is about? Does she read the description of this podcast? And why are you going on there? Is there a point to it?
That's such a great point.
And I'm just like, you got to have some intention with your moves. And it was just like there was no intention behind the decisions of her going on all of these podcasts. It makes no sense other than they've got millions and millions of subscribers, and she would get a lot of eyes on her. But a lot of people are like, why are you on this one though?
No, babe, look, that's a amazing point, because to me there was no rhyme or reason in the campaign either. It was very I'm glad you said that, because I was going to talk about the celebrity thing too. Like, one of the big mistakes, there was no, I'm not saying everything has to be uniform, but there was no I'm trying to get the right word for this, but there was no continuum, no.
It just seems sudden. Like, okay, if Donald Trump is doing it, okay, then we need to do it too. It was kind of like a second thought, not the original thought. It was definitely like a second thought that wasn't
But
even
it was
part of
just
the plan.
it was very
He was like, oh, let's go and do all these podcasts too.
it was not only random, but she didn't have any mold that any standard for the way her campaign was supposed to go. It just was anything. And I think that why that went wrong for her is that people, the whole campaign, they were saying, we want to understand who she is and what she stands
Right.
for. So when people are trying to figure out who you are and whatever, you're just doing anything. So let's talk about it. That's perfect. That call me Zaddy thing. It was just random, but obviously she was going for female votes there. I understand that. That's what the majority of that podcast was for. But again, who are you going for? What you stand for? And so the celebrity endorsements, right?
Yep.
So this is more Democratic Party. I'm just going to say this, and people could say what they agree or think I'm crazy. But look, as the Democratic Party, particularly when they would go to black rallies, black areas, black cities. So let's start off. They started off they had Meg Thee Stallion out there singing Hot Girl Summer Twerking. That was early. Then they had most recently they had Cardi B up there. They had Glorilla up there. Look, all these people have good music. I play their music. It's all good. But, the Democratic Party, you're talking about serious politics.
This is serious business.
So there's no problem with like a Usher or Beyonce, but you can't put certain people up there. You putting people up there who they're celebrities, but they shouldn't be up there even speaking. Cardi B should not be up there speaking, talking about she had this thing on her mind all this time, and she talked to Kamala, and then she's saying in the same speech she never wanted to eat. She didn't plan to vote. It was last minute. The whole grab or the whole thirst to just grab voters by pulling up celebrities.
Any celebrity
we saw
without a thought.
Yes, and what it did. Look, we're in our 40s. We're grown people, right? I'm a grown person, grown black man. If you want grown people who pay taxes, who work, pay taxes, have children to vote for you, you can't have Cardi B up there speaking. You just can't have her up there. Because look, at the end of the day, I know
maybe you are trying to play to the younger crowd and everything, but you can't just play to one part of a country. You know what I mean? You got to speak to all the people.
Well,
and having love you Meg Thee Stallion, but having her on the stage, it was just, I'm looking at the people in the background. I'm just looking at them like, are they enjoying this? Like, what are these? Some people are still holding like Kamala Harris sign. They're like, what is this?
Well,
it gave you such ick and ooh, and I'm just like, oh, honestly, I felt a little embarrassed for Kamala at that time. I'm just like, really? Like, this doesn't even make sense in this situation, in this context. It don't make any sense. Make it make sense.
So young people, what happened, I think, with young people, this is my theory. See, young people, just like when Beyonce came out, they was excited. They thought she was going to perform, and then they left.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they didn't vote for Kamala Harris, but the difference is that, see, the young people are actually going through a lot of the problems. So young people aren't disconnected from the problems. It's not just grown people in their 40s. The young people can't buy a home. The young people have an economy that's crushing them, right?
Yep.
The young people live in sanctuary cities. They know about, in New York, they know about the migrants who are getting $1,400 a month stipends while they work in 3 jobs, Uber and DoorDash and waitressing, UPS driver, Amazon, doing all this. They know about all that. So the young people will have a good time. But the young people was tapped, in my opinion, they were tapped into the actual issues.
Oh yeah, 100%. And just pulling out a celebrity on their behalf is not going to get the votes.
Nah.
Maybe some people, but I don't know. I don't think that's the majority. I really don't.
Well, here's the thing. Trump voters were not just older people. Trump voters were a lot of younger people.
Yeah.
He won. He's the first Republican president to win the popular vote.
Yep.
Since George Bush.
Yeah, 20 years ago or something. I think they said 20 years ago. Yeah.
So it says something. He won the popular vote. It wasn't like she won the popular. We can't even claim that. Oh, and Trump won the electoral college. Nah, he won both. And why did he win both? The young people cared about the issues too. So my whole thing is that there's nothing wrong with running on the actual issues. Young people were tapped into the issues too, because these issues are affecting younger people and older people.
100%.
Good vibes, and we're not going back, and we're fighting for freedom. That is all a bunch of hot air.
Yeah.
And that's not that. I knew that wasn't going to win the campaign. I told people that ain't going to win the campaign.
Yeah. So back to the playbook. So you got the celebrities. Check. You got the she's a black person. A black person support a black person.
Identity
Check.
politics.
Identity politics. Emotions. Riding off of the emotions and hate and love and joy. You want to be a place of democracy where we can all just be free, but yet you trash talking and talking a lot of hate, and I mean hate, about the other party, and you want that to be the sentiment for. No, that shouldn't be the sentiment if you're trying to bring a country together, because we are already divided.
Mm-hmm.
This I think this election has divided a lot of people, maybe a lot of families, friends, loved ones. It's already divided, and talking more hate onto a situation where it's just too much tension already. That's not the way. And I find that this particular party, they always talk about hate, or this person is going to be the next Hitler, or this person it's like the fear. They play on all of the emotions. They play on fear. I'm saying they because it just seems to be the trend. I would say of the liberal party is that they play on emotions. They play on what will pull at your heartstrings, the hope, the joy, the looking into the future and just wanting better for yourself. All of that. Yes.
Always tap into the racism. We always tapping
into the racism, the hate. Ooh, bad Trump, because he's like Hitler or whatever. So you feel the hate and the rage, and you're like, yeah. And it's just like, no, it's not true. When you get beyond the emotions are there for a good reason when they need to be, but don't make life decisions. I would say this is kind of like a life decision based on how you are going to live in this country under this particular administration, whether it be Republican or Democrat or a moderate, whoever it is. Got to look at your life situation and how it's going to be affected. Okay. And then make a decision off of that reality.
Right.
Not the emotion that is generated by talking a bunch of hogwash.
Well, that's that's exactly it. They were not prepared for a logical election.
They weren't prepared
Democrats
for
were not prepared. Everybody from Kamala down the line and all the liberal media, they were not prepared for a logical election. They just didn't do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying Trump's campaign was perfect, but look, they dwelled on issues that American people cared about. I mean, that was really it. To me, go ahead, please.
To you, what?
To me, it's this campaign was very elementary, in my opinion. It's very simple. It wasn't that complicated. But they threw in so much chaos of complication. Both sides threw in some chaos. But look, at the end of the day, Trump and them, they did stay on issues.
And they stayed on track.
They stayed on issues that people cared about.
They stayed on issues that they stayed on issues that people cared about. And then when they were brought with the nonsense of what Kamala's team has recently said about them, they were like, well, it's just simply not true.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump has, said this, that, and the other. And this says that he said it's simply not true. Or they're just, we're not focusing on identity politics because that's not what the American people are concerned about right now. They brought it back.
Right.
They brought it back to the people's concerns. They're not trying to get tied into the emotions of what this party is trying to throw.
Right.
They're constantly, this other party, the liberal party, I'll just say it, whatever, Democrats, they were constantly throwing things at the wall to see what would stick. Yeah. They were trying to throw everything at the wall to see what would stick. You know what? Make her relatable to the black people by saying that she cooks collard greens out of a tub.
Yes.
See if that works.
Let's please talk about that. So
No,
let's talk
it
about
didn't work
let's
because
talk
black
about
people do not. Oh my God. Just
No,
don't
that's
have me.
perfect.
Just
No,
don't
that
have me.
no, listen, that's
Black people
exactly
do not clean collard greens out of a tub that you wash your body in that could have dead skin cells all over the place. And I mean, it gets dirty. Your feet are dirty. Your body is dirty. It's rinsing dirt off of your body into a drain. But I'm going to put my collard greens in there.
I never heard of that before.
I've never heard of that in my life. So the fact that she sat there and tried to make that like it was a relatable thing, it just shows how disconnected she is, first of all, from I don't know who's doing that. I don't know who's doing that. I don't know who suggested that. And it also is that's not what's going to help you become relatable to a group of people.
Well, that's
like Hillary pulling out the hot sauce out of a purse.
So that's exactly what has changed. That's why I'm saying they weren't prepared for how the America has changed. They're not prepared for how black people have changed, right?
Yeah.
So I think that again, that's a great point because black people, to me, well, let me take a step back. When it comes to Trump, right? Black people showed up and voted for Harris, but a lot of black people voted for Trump. There's no way around it. Black men voted for Trump. A lot of black men voted for Trump, and a lot of black women, I'm sure, voted for Trump, and obviously white women, white men, and everybody else. But the point is that, like you just said, it's not relatable. Black people, I think the best way to relate to black people, if you want to relate to the black community this time around,
what?
To just talk about the issues.
Oh, talk about the issues and also be authentic.
Well, being authentic is talking about the issues.
Yeah.
Black people really we don't need the pandering. Like, we don't really need it. Like, it's not really needed to get black people to vote for you. I don't think that was really needed. I think that you do have some, as far as the demographic of women, some people were intrigued by a female president and some men were. Fine, that's cool. But you don't really need to do the hot sauce in the tub. Excuse me, the collard greens in the tub, and relating to black people, all the changing of the accents, all that stuff.
All the changing of the accents.
It ain't needed.
Lord,
it ain't needed because the problem is that a lot of the things that she did that she thought was going to help relate to black people turned black people off.
100%.
She got a lot of she encountered a lot of scrutiny that she didn't even have to have. There was no need to have any scrutiny. There was no need to talk. You don't got to talk about collard greens. Black people don't just care about collard green. Who cares about collard greens?
You don't have to thank a union member.
Yeah, thank a union. Yeah, you ain't got to do all that.
You don't have to change your voice.
You know what's going to happen? People are going to start streaming the clips together and looking at the accent change. You don't got a code switch for us. You don't even have to do that. And the whole thing is that, again, when you go back to Hillary Clinton, she could have won. Black people, black men, black women were going to vote for a woman. There's this whole idea that black men weren't going to vote for a woman.
Yeah.
That's another huge
mistake. Don't send somebody shaking their finger in our face. Like, really? We don't know better?
Well, they misplayed it because what they thought is that they weren't in tune with black men. They said, well, black men, they don't want to, we don't know why they don't want to vote for her. That's what they thought on that side. I don't understand. It's easy to understand why black men weren't voting for her. Because black men, were just looking at it logically and saying, you know what? Logically, I don't like what I'm hearing or seeing. Instead of taking that obvious fact, they said, we're going to send Barack Obama because, he means so much to the black community, right? So we're going to have him go talk to us. What did that do? It backfired. And the reason why it backfired, I've said it a million times, is that Barack Obama, he lost more credibility doing that because, again, they're not tapped in. They said, well, you know what? This is how we deal with the black community. We're just going to do the same stuff we typically do. They're not thinking deeply. They're not thinking about any policies. They are emotional people. So we're going to deal with them as such. We're going to go to them and talk to them like that. Let me play this. Let me play this video. So this is they always be clowning Van Jones because he always looked like he about to cry.
I know.
and Joy Reid, I mean,
she makes my stomach hurt.
I mean, it's just been. Let me play a piece of what she said. It's just I like what this particular guy said. I'm gonna play what he said, but
I wonder if she really believes herself when she says.
I don't know if she really believes it.
Do you think she believes it, or she?
I think a lot of what she says is just It's just part of the script.
It's just part of the script.
Black voters came through for Kamala Harris. White women voters did not. Pure Project 2025 in miniature in Florida. And that kind of extreme, sort of extremist right-wing fascist type government in Florida, does that make it a more attractive place?
Thinking about the people who are not a part of anybody's elite who are hurting tonight. There are African-American women who know a little bit about being talked down to and know a little bit about having their economic dreams crushed, who tried to dream a big dream over the past couple of months. And tonight they're trading in a lot of hope for a lot of hurt.
Okay. And that may be true, certainly for African-American women. The idea that there was on the verge of a potential first female presidency and a first female president of colour.
But she wasn't the right one.
And what I'm saying is not about those people. But the reality is that in many ways, the people who they turn to for information have lied to them, have lied to them about the chances of what was happening in this election. The New York Times polls that we've talked about, day in and day out, when you actually dug into the detail, 80% of people had made their decision about what they were going to do in the American election months ago. So it didn't matter what happened with the comedian at Madison Square Garden. It didn't matter necessarily whether Trump had a good day on the trail or a bad day on the trail. They had made their choice. And they had made their choice because the government that they hired to replace Donald Trump did not deliver for them. They saw a man who, whether many people like it or not, was a man who had been tested over and over again, from courtroom to the media not even treating his candidacy as one that deserved to be listened to about what he was promising. Like every day, and I've been diving deep into this for months, every day he would make an announcement about, say, no tax on Social Security. Then you turn on the American news or you try to find things in the paper about it. No mention. Just a silly comment that was made by someone somewhere else, because there's no possible way that Donald Trump would be able to have a message that anyone would want to hear. But of course they did.
I want to play that because that part was, a good summary of kind of what happened. So, going back to what was going on during the campaign. So, yeah, there was some name calling and conversation on both sides that wasn't necessarily about issues. But what Trump was doing, the things that he had mentioned, he talked about immigration, obviously. He talked about trade deficits with China. He talked about cutting corporate taxes for certain companies, encouraging companies to do business here. He talked about no tax on overtime and tips, right? So these are real things that he mentioned.
Yeah.
That people were like, okay.
Yeah.
And again, they were very slow on putting out
policies, putting out anything. Oh yeah, they were super slow on that. I was monitoring that. I was looking at the site. I was looking at Donald Trump's site whenever he had listed, because when the whole 2025 was a thing, I was looking. Yeah, Project 2025 was a thing. I was looking into that, and I was looking on his site to see if there was any indication about the 2025 plan, the Project 2025. But no, it had his agenda laid out. Nothing about Project 2025, which is never a part of it, separate entity. So I was like reading through his. I'm like, okay, yep, yeah, I want that.
Right.
Oh yeah, I know a lot of people who would like that.
Right.
And then I go on Kamala's. There was nothing there but donate.
It took a while. Yeah.
It took a minute. It
might have been at least a month after she started.
Yeah, probably about a month or maybe a little bit more. But I was looking on there. I was like, dang, she ain't got nothing on here but donate.
Now,
like, what do you stand for? I'm trying to figure out who you are.
Right.
I need to be able to, if you're not going to say who you are and tell us what you're about, I'm going to go to your website and just see and let your policy speak. So I go on her website to see, who is this person? What is she about? Apparently nothing. She just wants money. I guess that's all she just wants is money. Okay, well, that doesn't tell me anything either.
They didn't know what they wanted to do yet. So now, when they finally do come out with the policy, and again, this is what I think people like myself, I'm very logical, Mr. Logical, right? Nothing is tugging at my heartstrings. Nothing in this campaign tugged at my heartstrings whatsoever. All I listened to is the potential policies. None of it's implemented. They're all what I would call suggestions.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, people who don't understand, Congress is the one who passed laws anyway.
Yeah.
Right. But these are suggested policies, if you will, directions of where the country could go under this leadership.
Right.
So Trump had his things people mentioned that you mentioned, right? And then Kamala comes with her policy, opportunity economy. So
that's the name I was looking for earlier.
Opportunity
economy.
So
economy.
when we came with that, I'm like, okay, cool. So let me just digest what's being proposed. So the first thing that was proposed, I don't know if it was the first thing, but this is the list, right?
Yeah.
So it was the $25,000 for first-time home buyers. How's that going to be funded? When they first started asking her that, sidestep, because you're going to have to fund that. This is $25,000 that is a grant. It's not a loan. It's not going to be paid back.
Right.
So that means it has to be funded. And there's no logistics as to who's going to get it, how many people are going to get it, right? And then in addition to that, we had the idea that she said early on, it just kind of disappeared, I think, but they said they're going to build 3 million.
Oh my gosh.
Homes.
You know what?
Early on,
let me tell you, before
they got rid of that.
Before so I went on her website again today just to see if all of the talking points were there, and we were going to talk about it in the episode, but it's no longer there. Now she has this conceded note to her her concession note to her constituents. But yeah, it was on there because when I read through it, I'm like, dang, this don't say. It talks about the child tax credit, $6,000 for so you can buy whatever you need to buy, and it talked about building
they said 3
million new homes.
Let me pause on that real quick. The 3 million new homes. When I talk to real estate professionals and I watch real estate professionals talk about it, people who are in the know on larger levels, you know what I'm saying? The people who are real heavy investors. Everybody was like, it's not going to happen. The government, they're not going to build 3 million new homes. From where? From where out is this going to come? How are they going to fund that again? So these are things that are in addition to that.
That's not the problem.
And it's not even the problem. We have an affordability issue in the country.
Exactly.
So, that was just, those first two things. I'm like, the $25,000 grant, first time home buyers, the 3 million new homes. I'm like, this is fairy tale land. So the unrealized capital gains, that was another huge
blunder.
No, to me, it was a blunder.
Another blunder.
So the unrealized capital gains, taxing people, the proposed idea of taxing, this is supposed to be for people who make over 100 million or more, or have 100 million or more in net worth. But the idea of it was bad. Taxing people on unrealized gains, taxing people on money they haven't made yet,
right?
Based on something they bought and its value prior to them actually selling it, to charge them on what it was going to be worth. It's insane. So it's insane. It's just bad policy. And again, it goes back to the point that I don't think Congress was ever going to vote for that anyway.
No,
it would never make it into law. Another bad one. And then, what else? So as the campaign goes along, all of a sudden, and this is the weirdest thing to me, as the campaign goes along, late in the game, we talked about how they're like, oh, we got to appeal to black men. All of a sudden, they come up with this supposed package for black men.
Okay.
50,000. No. Let me go back. They had the $50,000 tax credit for new businesses, and I'm telling people, I'm like, yo, that's not going to spawn new business.
Yeah.
Most new businesses don't even profit in the first 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's not startup capital. It's a tax credit. If you never get to the point of making money, tax credit won't help you. And if you don't have startup capital, your ass ain't going to start no business to even get a tax credit. So it's like a bunch of policies that are empty. So then the whole, we want to get black men into the game or whatever. We want to get black male votes. They come up with this package about a $50,000, it's $50,000 loan or $25,000 unforgivable loan for entrepreneurs. And I'm like, So it was I don't know how they.
You trying to figure it out. You're like, okay, how's that gonna work?
Their spin game was crazy. The spin game in this election was crazy because I'm watching. I'm like, how do they make a package for supposedly for black men,
specifically just for?
There's going to be $50,000 for any entrepreneur. What entrepreneur? Anybody can do an LLC and claim they have a business. So how do you do that? And how is it paid for, right? Then they start talking about legalizing marijuana.
Oh, God.
And what did it do? It offended black men because I'm like, yo, this has nothing to do with black male issues, right? And then they pivot, and then this package becomes something for everybody. I think you told me. The package became for everybody because obviously she herself said she wasn't going to do anything for black people directly. So you can't come with some package for black people. This is right before Barack Obama, before they sent him to go talk to wag his finger. I was like, man. And I'm asking people who want to vote for. I'm like, I'm not mad at her. I don't know her personally. It's not a beef against her.
Yeah.
We're just looking for policy that makes sense. And I didn't see any policy that made any sense.
No.
There was no solid policy about immigration that she was going to fix.
Honestly, like right before she changed her website, there was no policy at all about immigration. It was nothing about immigration. It was always
Was there ever anything that she was going to do different about immigration?
Well, she was going to I guess she was going to submit that whatever to Congress again and see. She said because her reasoning for wanting to go through Congress is to make it a permanent fix. Well, it's not going to work. That particular bill had a lot of fluff inside of it too. That wasn't that was like the immigration was just kind of covering everything else that was trickling behind. There was other stuff in that bill that it shouldn't have been passed. So if you're gonna try to submit the same kind of bill going through Congress again, you're just wasting your time. Don't do it. You can do an executive order. Do you know what that is? You can actually write an executive order for that. You don't have to go through Congress to stop.
Joe could have written one.
Right.
Joe don't know what's going on.
Well, I think Joe knows what's going on, and he's pissed. And he's like, man, F y'all.
Yeah, that's why he was like.
Whenever you put him on camera, that's why they keep Joe off the camera, because he be saying and doing things. And honestly, I don't blame them.
They couldn't, listen.
I don't blame them.
Before I even talk about that part, another bad policy that was vague was, and Cardi B mentioned this. This is how bad the campaign was. So Cardi B's up there like, yeah, she's gonna tackle she's gonna do corporate price gouging. She's gonna tackle that. And you're giving that to Cardi B to talk about, and Cardi B saying, well, she told me that in my face because groceries are expensive for me too, and she told me that in my face, and she better not be lying to me. This is what Cardi B's saying as she's at this rally.
Yeah, I heard it. Mm-hmm.
And again, the corporate price gouging thing would never make it in. First of all, that you have to have some specifics to even go for corporate price gouging. The cost of fuel, the supply chain, all dictates grocery prices. So to tackle corporate price gouging, first you have to prove that there is corporate price gouging going on. Then you have to come up with a lot of specifics to figure out what is corporate price gouging and what's just higher cost to deliver goods to retail.
Yeah.
So it's like,
and then what the particular price would be,
what it would be
for a bell pepper. Like, how are you going to determine that? What determines that?
That's what
the free market does.
That's the whole point. So it's like,
you can't just put a price on one thing when there are so many other factors that affect the price of that one thing.
Well, we don't have that in America. We have what you just said, a free market. We never even done that. So the idea, again, that was emotional. That was to throw something out there so people feel like, I go to the grocery store.
Feelings again.
She's going to deal with corporate price gouging. But the problem is that Americans understand that that's not what's happening.
That's not how it works. No, so not at all.
You'll get some emotional people who vote who don't know no better.
Yeah.
But most people get the fact that, that's not what's going on.
Right.
So that's not a solution because that's not what's going on, and it would never make it into law. So again, that was part of policy that she was putting on her checklist. So when people go through and look at the policies, that's why nobody was passionate about none of her policies. The only thing people were passionate about was the fact that they didn't like Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
The only legitimate issue that could be tied to Harris that people didn't tie to Trump was abortion. It was the only thing that people could say. Now, I don't have a beef with abortion or whatever the case is. I'm not going to talk about that. But again, if that was top of what America was worried about, she would have won the campaign.
Yeah.
It's not what people were concerned about on a large scale.
On a larger scale, there's, I think, bigger problems. There are bigger issues to me to address. Abortion is always going to be a topic of discussion and probably disagreement.
Right.
But right now, there's nothing. She couldn't even do anything about abortion, even if she wanted to, because it's no longer. It's in the state's control. So there's nothing that she could be doing about it, even if she wanted to do something about it.
100%.
So for her to just run on that, it didn't make sense. Because there's nothing that she can do about it.
They missed the boat. The Democrats missed the boat, and that's the whole point of why, we're talking about this. The Democrats missed the boat on what Americans care about.
It was like they were never tuned in, never tapped in. They weren't listening. They had their, I don't know if it was an agenda, but it just, like I said, they were going by an old playbook, that does not work anymore.
Yeah.
And then they tried to throw some things out there to see what would work.
Right.
None of it worked. So you gotta do a new playbook.
Yeah. 2028, they're gonna have to do a new playbook. I think the Democrats, this is a good opportunity for them to sit back and really say to themselves, let's rebuild, let's rethink. If we want to really get the American people behind us, we have to really listen to them and figure out what's important to them.
Yeah.
And a lot of what you just said was so right. All the typical playbook, the identity politics, racism, fear tactics, all of that stuff didn't work at the end of the day. And if you're particularly talking about black people
and just running on hope and change, no,
they bled. Yeah, hope and change is not Barack Obama.
We're not doing that anymore.
They bled. I don't know the numbers, but I think the Democrats bled so many black voters this time. Because
it doubled.
It doubled.
Yeah, the black men vote doubled from Trump's last presidency. I think it was at 8%, and this presidency was 16% increased.
So instead of pretending that black men are confused and wanted to vote for a woman or some, it's very simple. It's not rocket science. It's very simple. Trump campaign paid attention to more issues that black men cared about. Simple. It's just that American people are simple at the core, and what's different now is going forward. Pay attention to the issues because people are more in tune with what's going on. You can't really win people with emotion anymore. It just doesn't work no more. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, maybe they could have done that, like you said, like back in maybe 2008 when we got so many ways of getting information now. So many podcasts are specific for political purposes.
Like this one and many others.
Many others. People are talking about the issues. People have ideas on how to fix the issues. So next time in the playbook of 2028, you got to come up with something better because just pay attention. The people will tell you what the problems are. You should be able to see it for yourself.
Yeah.
And make sure that your policies are relevant to the problems of that day.
Yes. And just
that time.
I want to not forget about this. Recognize, and this guy I played earlier mentioned this. Recognize that the Republican Party isn't the old fogey elitist white man party that y'all think it is. They're not that anymore. What's happened now is that you got to realize the J.D. Vance, the Vivek Ramaswamy, Elon Musk, you got to realize that they had an RFK. It's part of the game now. Like you were saying earlier, he's
dealing with the health and the food. You know, how we consuming our food because a lot of children are ending up with chronic diseases.
Right.
Because of our food and the lack of nutrition. So I love that they have somebody on that platform or a part of the campaign that is addressing the health issues in this country, because I've said it a million times. This country is not focused on wellness, it's focused on illness, and that's how they make a lot of money. So I'm happy that there's someone now a part of the campaign that is focused on wellness and health. first. Yes.
100%. And don't forget Tulsi Gabbard and a bunch of other people. So they
Yeah.
have a whole Trump's and that's
His coalition.
another point. His
Yeah.
coalition
It's
was
strong.
much stronger than Kamala Harris's coalition. She has goofy ass Tim Walz and not much else. It just wasn't a strong coalition.
Yeah.
Of people with new ideas. So the Democratic Party, to me, is in utter shambles.
Yeah. No, it needed to happen. This whole thing that played out in front of America, in front of the world, it needed to happen, right? Because it's gonna force them to do better.
Yeah.
And to listen to the people.
Totally.
So
that's so true.
Yeah,
that's so true. It definitely was a needed thing to happen, and hopefully they understand, because for people like us who voted and just everyday people who looked and didn't vote for her, we just saw things with our own eyes. That's all it really was. It wasn't complicated. All the other mess and all the emotion and stuff, I know some people take it in. None of that stuff didn't penetrate my brain. It didn't penetrate my heart.
It sounded like nonsense to me. And I am one who takes in emotion. I can feel the sentiment. That's right. What I would say. I could feel the sentiment or the sadness or the whatever. To me, it was just such baloney. Like, all of it just seemed, because it was coming from a person who was I feel like she was fake the entire time. I still don't know who she is. I feel like she's a fun person to be around, because I kind of liked the SNL skit that she did, even though that was unfairly broadcasted because they didn't give the other party the opportunity to come onto the platform either. But I kind of liked that skit that she did because it was fun. It was, right. I feel like that's more of who she is. She's just fun, a girl to hang out with and have a good time. And I'm all down for hanging out and having a good time. But when it comes to the status of what's going on in our country, I don't want to have a good time. I don't want to feel happy vibes. I don't want to feel joy, because there's a lot of serious situations going on, and we feeling it in our pockets. Every week we spending about a couple of $100 just for groceries. Right. So yeah, that is hitting home, and there's just a lot more serious situations going on in the country, and I'm just not trying to have fun and good vibes right now when it comes to figuring out who's going to be leading the country.
Yeah. And you're right. She is, I think her personality is fun and funny. And I think that, again, she just wasn't tapped in. I think that, you know what? I'll say this, like I said in the beginning, she had an opportunity. Most people don't get an opportunity to even try to become president. I think that she may have lost anyway, but I do think my thing is that you ain't got shit to lose. You trying to run, just put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you'll never get to run for president. She'll never get to do it again.
Yeah.
Right? So to me, if I were her, I would have said, you know what? What's the best way to win? But I guess
she could do it if she wanted to, but
no, it's never gonna happen.
I don't think.
Come on now, no.
I don't think her.
She could
I don't
try.
think her time's gonna come back around.
There is no time that she's done. She's never
left too much of a bad, nasty taste in my mouth. I don't know. She would have.
You don't get an opportunity to run.
You don't get many second chances at this.
The only time, if she was president, she could come back again. But you can't come back being a vice president doing that. It's what she did. So the opportunity, to me, I think, she had a reasonable opportunity to become president.
Yeah,
she just didn't. She didn't seize the opportunity. In my personal opinion,
right.
She didn't seize it. She could have done much differently. But again, it's part of the party and part of how they were disconnected. If they just were tuned in and decided to just be honest and real, I think she would have had a much better opportunity to win. And look, even if she lost, she could have still been real and been on top of the issues and said, look, this is what's going on. But I think it was a squandered opportunity.
It was, opportunity missed.
Yeah. So, well, on that note,
that's how the party broke down.
That's how the party broke down. Our advice, 2028, really take a look, learn. You can always learn from it. And if you want all black and brown people to be Democrats, and you want everybody to see the Democratic Party has better ideas, this is an opportunity for the Democratic Party to learn, rebuild in 2028. And I urge everybody who voted for Harris, don't shut your brain off and unfriend everybody and live in an echo chamber. Really take a look and demand more from your party. You know what I'm saying? If because but Michelle Obama was talking about how people are holding Kamala Harris to a higher standard. Like, no, they really weren't. It's just, it's not true. They just were trying to understand who she was and what she stood for, how she's going to lead. And, in 2028, there will be no Donald Trump to talk about. So Democrats have an opportunity to learn from it. Hopefully they do. That's all I got to say.
I hope they do too.
So
I don't know. It's not looking too good right now, but I hope they do too.
They got 4 years to think about it.
They got 4 years to figure out something that is going to be so interesting. But I would also implore you to, now that we have another 4 years, just see how things are now, okay? What you've been feeling now, and look at your pocket, see where you're spending money, seeing how much, like, just be aware of what's going on your day-to-day, and just see, like, what this opportunity, or not even an opportunity, I think it's an opportunity for the country to get back on track and for people to start having more money in their pockets. So yes, I think there's definitely opportunity there, but I would implore you to just see the difference.
Talking about everyday people?
Of your everyday, yeah.
You talking about everyday people?
Everyday people, yeah. I would say, like, during this next 4 years, because they already think the slavery is coming back and that Hitler is going to be doing, just pay attention and see if those things happen. See if those things happen.
Those, I think what you're speaking to is a good point, but I think there are people who, it's blood and crip, man. People identify with a certain gang, and if certain people are going to identify with a gang because they just feel that that's their party.
Yeah.
Not realizing that the Democratic Party once wasn't even the party of black people.
I know.
It's neither here nor there.
The party of slavery.
If you want to be in a particular gang for life, my thought is cool, but I agree with you. At the end of the day, pay attention to what's going on with you.
Yeah.
Be in touch. If Trump fucks up and there's all types of bad things that happen and his policy is wrong, cool.
Right.
At least you'll know what you're not voting for next time.
Exactly.
Just his personality. You'll vote on some issues, and hopefully whoever comes up in the Democratic Party, for one, they'll be in tune with issues that are going on and introduce better policies.
Yes.
And also, whoever the candidate is will have a better coalition because they need good teams.
Yes, it does take a team.
There's people in the Democratic Party. There's good thinkers. There's good leaders in there, but they didn't see the light of day. A lot of the talent in the Democratic Party is not even being mentioned. But that's a whole nother story. But you guys let us know what you think in the comments.
Thank you.
Crucial Convo Podcast. And we here, my lovely wife Faith. You know me. Yeah, that's what it is. So we out of here.
All right. Peace.